straight away out.
Paisley, a self-standing, canny, independent town, existing in the shadow of the neighbouring giant 6 miles to the east, but determined to pursue its own merry way. As with the town, so with the football team. Survivors against the odds from living in the pockets of Rangers and Celtic for 115 years, and still on every alternate Saturday, the focus of Sporting Paisley's activity, with the feet scurrying along Love Street to see their beloved buddies. Today the ground lies in the shadow of Glasgow Airport, a modern stadium, but the beginnings were far different. You had to be a survivor in the Paisley of 1877, with its narrow streets, picturesque water which was lethal and disease-bearing. Sport was the Victorians' lung. Keep your eye on Paisley, Disraeli had said. I wonder if he had heard that St Mirren had decided to stop being a rugby football club, go to association, 2 members going to Harry McNeil's to buy the first ever ball. They may have bought 1 or 2 other things too, because Harry paid their train fare home to Paisley. They had walked there. First game Johnson Britannia, first match report with quaint phrases like the ball being carried into the stranger's ground, the stranger's goal being in danger, no danger of a break-in, 3 people there, receipts, tuppence, result 1-0 St Mirren. More important games lay ahead. The County Cup, second only in those days to the Scottish, fiercely competed for, teams in Thornliebank, Greenock, Port Glasgow, and well worth the fighting for too, and well worth the winning. A handsome trophy, and the Buddies were the first to get their hands on it in 1882-83. They had opposition at home too, the formidable Abercorn side of Paisley, whose local derbies with St Mirren gave such a flavour to the first years of football in the town. The game was becoming ever more sophisticated. St Mirren moved from Short Routes to Greenhill to Westmarch, where they built a fine new cricket-style pavilion with running water, dressing rooms and all mod cons. By this time, Saints players were making a name for themselves. Richard Hunter, fullback, capped against Ireland. James Daddy Dunlop, marvellous inside left, for whom a tremendous international career seemed in prospect. Johnny Patterson, captain, a man of very high standards, who once in exasperation told his goalkeeper, one Drinnan, to give up the goalkeeping and join a flute band, where presumably might have been a better player. Andrew Brown, high school centre-half from Kilmarnock and later the club's general manager. John Taylor, who went to Everton and pleased the fans, but's career was cut short when he was struck in the larynx by a ball. And Davy Crawford, thrice-capped full-back, who was described rather obliquely as an artistic kicker. In 1890 the Scottish League was formed. St Mirren were founder members, as indeed were their old Paisley rivals Abercorn, and in the first season Abercorn did rather better. Today St Mirren are one of the only 5 survivors of that original band of league clubs. In the New Year's Day game of 1892, James Dunlop fell on a piece of glass, tetanus set in and he died. A great talent was lost to the club and the game. Despite the loss of Dunlop, Saints adapted well to league football. By 1893 they were third in the league, undoubtedly the predominant side in Paisley. Abercorn had started a slide from which they were never really to recover. Saints' success meant that they had outgrown Westmarch, and they moved to their present home, Love Street, to a ground built in the site of the old industrial school, a great gaunt Victorian building. James K. Horsburgh, president of the club and owner of a paper mill at Linwood, gave many players jobs who would otherwise have become professionals in England. But professionalism was on its way. When it came in Scotland in 1893, Saints embraced it, Abercorn were more tepid about it, and the result was that the other Paisley side slid slowly down to the second division and eventual oblivion. The main publication on Scottish football of the day, Scottish Sport, gave it as its opinion that St Mirren had been interested in the decline of Abercorn. The Saints denied this, and there were two schools of opinion in the town, one thinking that football would dwindle and die in the absence of a viable local rivalry, the other thinking that in the town of Paisley there was room really for only one side. That side was St Mirren, seen here in an early Scottish League game against Clyde at Barrowfield, with no nets and shin-length shorts. With the dawn of the new century, Saints became more recognisable. Strips assumed something of modern proportions. The club became a limited company. Love Street was bought. It was a time of comparative success. A new pavilion was built at Love Street. But sometimes the headlines were for the wrong reasons. A referee leaving Love Street after a match had his cab pelted as he drove to Gilmour Street. The SFA reacted angrily and fined the club the then massive total of £50. The committee decided that players on training nights could be regaled with Bovril and biscuits. Bovril helped athletes, it helped cyclists. It did nothing for St Mirren at all in the short run, because when they got to their first ever Scottish Cup final at Hampden, they were thumped 5-1 by Celtic. If you look at the Celtic forward line, Bennett, McMenemy, Quinn, Summers and Hamilton, it's easy to understand why, an all-time great forward line. Perhaps Saints should have been drinking Bogue's rheumatic rum, as advertised by the great Jimmy Quinn of Celtic. The occasional Bovril drinker was to be seen in the streets of Paisley, but with the advent of the First World War, the world was plunged into chaos. On a lesser extent, so too was football. It became a case of find any 11 players you could and stick them out on the field. Like every other Scottish club, St Mirren used guest players from Scotland and also from south of the border, and in 1919 they matched the men to the moment when they won a national trophy. At Parkhead, they defeated Hearts convincingly enough 3-0 in the final, although they needed extra time to do it. They had a makeshift team, 7 men still in the forces. Sutherland scored the first goal, Hodges got the second, and before the end, Sutherland had scored the third. St Mirren hold 2 trophies for this win, oddly enough. The Victory Cup Shield, because the trophy itself was not ready, and indeed it was some years before St Mirren took possession of it. But eventually it too landed in the cupboard at Love Street. However, the euphoria was not to last. The following year, St Mirren were in deep trouble in the league, finishing bottom, and were only saved from relegation by the fact that there was then no automatic promotion and relegation. They had invested in the ground too. The new stand was taking shape at Greater Love Street. The following year was better, a respectable 8th, due in no small measure to the feats of Donkey Walker, who scored 45 league goals, then and for some time afterwards, a record. Following this, St Mirren were invited to Spain to open the new ground of Barcelona, and there in the final they played Notts County in a competition for the Barcelona Cup. St Mirren came out on top in this one, winning by 2-1 after extra time, and the scorer of both goals, who else? Donkey Walker. Donkey continued to be in scoring form for the rest of the trip, and when St Mirren came home, they brought the magnificent trophy with them, then valued at 50 guineas. St Mirren fans reckon this is the first trophy ever won by a Scottish club in Europe. 4 years later, St Mirren tasted real success in the 1926 Scottish Cup final against Celtic. They had a side full of outstanding players and current internationalists. The captain was goalkeeper Jock Bradford, the survivor of Barcelona. Willie Summers, a redoubtable centre-half and a noted club servant. Tom Morrison, fierce tackling but silky wing half. Jimmy Howison, an inside left who was later with Hull City. And at centre, leading scorer for 7 consecutive seasons, Davy McRae. Remembering that day as a small boy, former chairman and current director of the club, Willie Todd.
Well, it's a long time ago, and as you say, I was only 6 years of age. I don't recollect a great deal about it. I remember the one thing that did stick in my mind, my mother had on a black and white coat that day, and I also remember taking the tram to Paisley Road Toll and walking from Paisley Road Toll to Hampden, because in those days, if you went by special train, you were taking your life in your hand because it was really quite chaotic. And while it took a long time to walk from the Toll to Hampden, at least you were safe enough and you got there.
And get there they did. For those who didn't in those days of few radios, if you wanted a taste of the atmosphere and action at Hampden, you were dependent on football comedian Sammy Shields.
Scottish Cup, Simpson St Mirren. This is Hampden Park. Here's the St Mirren, the captain, Bradford. Good old Bradford. Good old Bradford. St Mirren have won the toss. Good. There they go, there they go. They're the back of their goal. Good kick. Corner, 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 corner. Corner. Now then, the careful Morrison. And out for the winner. Oh, what a beauty. Jump to the ball. It's a goal!
Few can remember Sammy Shields now, but Willie Todd remembers one more crucial detail about that marvellous day.
I can remember going to La Scala that evening and seeing the newsreel in the La Scala in the evening.
And they could see the newsreel in the La Scala from 7 o'clock on the night of the match. Celtic played in white, a strip they were never to wear again, and was thought to be unlucky by their fans. The crowd was over 100,000, the first time this figure had ever been exceeded, and they saw St Mirren in the attack early on. Davy McRae got the first goal after only 3 minutes, too early for many St Mirren supporters who were delayed in a hold-up in the Cathcart Circle. They did, however, see Jimmy Howison add a second goal in the 25th minute, and the match seemed safe, but Celtic came battling back. They thought they'd scored on this occasion when Jimmy McGarvey clearly imagined the ball had crossed the line, but Jock Bradford scrambled it clear and Saints held on comfortably enough. Each man received £8 for his efforts and a bottle of whisky. In a heroic act of self-denial, Dave McRae said he wouldn't drink his till the cup came back to Paisley. 10 years on, that side had broken up, but Jimmy McGregor pleased the fans with frequent goal-scoring. Jimmy McCloy, father of Peter, kept him out at the other end. Johnny Latimer could play outside or inside right, fast and tricky. Most supporters preferred him in the wing. Bobby Ansell, classic full-back and, of course, manager of Motherwell in the future. Jimmy Knox, scourge of Scottish goalkeepers, prolific goal-scorer, arguably the possessor of the hardest shot in the game of football. By this time, Dave McRae was near retirement and not in the 1934 final side, which read McCloy, Hay, Ansell, Gebby, Wilson, Miller, Knox, Latimer, McGregor, McCabe, Phillips. Much fancied Rangers were expected to win, and as Willie Todd remembers, they did exactly that.
Paisley was in a real fervour of excitement over this cup. We're all sure we're going to win it. And in the Cossey side, the cooperative shop in Cossey side, Jimmy Knox's boots were in the window with the caption, "Watch those boots on Saturday." Unfortunately, on Saturday, we lost 5-0. And I can remember having walked from Paisley Road Toll to Hampden, I think I cried the whole way back.
The Love Street minutes were suitably laconic in commenting on the final. Bad is all they could manage to say. Perhaps in reaction to this, St Mirren in 1935 went down to the second division for the first time in their history. But as often happens, relegation proved something of a spur, and the forward line of Latimer, Knox, McGregor, McCammon and Gall took them back to where they rightfully belonged, the first division, Saints scoring 114 goals in the process. Even Rangers, when they came to Love Street in the Scottish Cup, were glad enough to get away with a 2-1 win, and the crowd, well over 40,000, put a smile on Saints bank manager's face. For in football, as in the wider world, times were hard in the 30s. Around this time, James Horsburgh died. He had been a great servant and benefactor to St Mirren over the years. To turn a penny, St Mirren bid for a world title fight. Jackie Jurich, Benny Lynch. There should have been 30,000 there, but Lynch weighed in not for the first time significantly overweight, and the crowd was halved. By 1939, the world was at war again, and Paisley was grim, silent, dark much of the time. But the mills were running at full throttle and there was prosperity in the town, even although you had to look quite closely to find a young man of military age still left at home. The guest player once more was king. Even Bill Shankly turned out for St Mirren on one occasion. But there was a day on July the 10th, 1943, when the hooter went and all Paisley feet were directed towards Hampden. There St Mirren were playing Rangers, a side that had changed little since the war, with the exception of Willie Thornton, who was in the next column winning a military medal in Sicily. The previous week, over 2 titanic struggles, St Mirren had beaten Morton, a Morton side which included Stanley Matthews and Tommy Lawton. Saints had their players too, of course, notably Johnny Deacon and Dan McGarvey on the left wing, and at centre forward, a young miner, Alec Linwood. Today, almost 50 years later, Alec Linwood reminisces with Morton winger of the day, Johnny Kelly.
Well, I think we took the lead, Willie, Alec.
Well, you took the lead in both games.
Because I scored the first goal, I think.
Did you?
I think so, yes. Mind you, that's memory-wise. I might be wrong, but I scored one goal anyway. I don't know whether it was the first.
I don't have a great recollection of that.
But I remember...
the 2 games, really. It's the final that I remember more. But I think at the end of the 2 games, St Mirren probably deserved to get through to the final, but no more than that. Morton were a good team.
Well, I like what Alex says, I've got to agree with him, without a doubt. I thought your centre half had a brilliant game.
Kelly.
Willie Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was playing against
Lawton.
Lawton.
Yes.
Tommy Lawton. And to play well against Tommy Lawton's no mean feat, I think.
I would say he fought all St Mirren players' battles. If someone was annoying a forward, Willie says, I'll be up at the first corner kick. And he was that type of player that he sort of fought the other players' battles. But a very, very nice man.
And a good centre half.
Oh, excellent.
In the final, however, it was Alec Linwood who stole the show with the only goal of the match.
I didn't see it get into the net because I was quite surprised when I picked myself up off the ground that they were all diving the top of me because I'd toppled over when I'd swung at the ball, so that was it. And we managed to last the game and win 1-0.
Alec Linwood didn't see that goal, but the fans did, and they celebrated in dramatic if unorthodox fashion. Some of the players took the Summer Cup to the Victory Theatre that night. Who cared about Rex and his Hawaiians or Hal Mack and his Dancing Demons when the Summer Cup was on display? After the war, new names made the headlines. Telfer, Milne, Reid, Burrell, Les. And as always, the ones that got away. That great inside forward Billy Steele. And that superb prince of goalkeepers, Jimmy Cowan. How Saints could have used them in the years to come. It was a time of great attendances. 15 to 20,000 would stream down Love Street on a Saturday afternoon, even for run-of-the-mill matches. There was no doubt when a home game was in progress. One name that was to be legendary over the next 13 years was Davy Lapsley, signed from the unlikely stable of Tranmere Rovers in bizarre circumstances.
I was supposed to go and play a month's trial with Everton when I was the mob, but when I got home, mucking about like, and I got word for Bobby Rankin, he was the manager at that time, if I'd come through. So he took me out in the park. I'd done all boots with bars on them, and he lined the ball up at the penalty spot. He says, now have a go. And something in the goalkeeper never saw it, like went in like a bullet, you know. So he's right. That'll do. Up the stair, and they had my sign on, like, you know.
Lapsley became part of a settled St Mirren defence. At right half was Jimmy Drinkwater, someone for whom Davy Lapsley had a profound admiration.
Yeah, Drinky was a great player. in my opinion, like, Drinky used to play right half in front of me, and I used to kill them before I got to them, like, you know. I mean, Drinky was a hard man. He wasn't dirty, but very strong in the tackle. And he was only, I would say, about 11 stone something, like, you know.
Another Love Street stalwart who struck terror into the hearts of the opposition was left-back Davy Lindsay, affectionately known as Killer.
When you met the opposition that you were playing before the game started, the outside right usually asked, is Lindsay playing? And I don't think it was the first well-known player that when Lindsay was playing decided that that I pulled muscle or something. It was quick and hard, and a combination of Lindsay and Drinkwater. It was difficult to play against him, I would think.
By the mid-1950s, a fine half-back line of Nielsen, Telfer and Holmes formed the powerhouse of a side that got to Hampden in 1955 for the League Cup final against Aberdeen.
Paddy Buckley kicked off for Aberdeen in the League Cup final at Hampden Park against St Mirren, wearing striped shirts. This is Aberdeen's third final, and they were hot favourites. St Mirren have never reached this exalted stage before, but much to everybody's surprise, there was no score in the first half. After the interval, however, the Dons began a sparkling offensive. Within 2 minutes, a high cross from Hayther bounced off Mallon into the net. The Paisley boys had lost their stage fright, and they swarmed round the Dons' goal area, determined to bring off that equaliser. It came 12 minutes later from Bobby Holmes. Well done, Saints! But Aberdeen had the answer in Graham Leggett. In the net and in the bag, as skipper Mitchell received the trophy.
In the mid-1950s, one of Scotland's great players, Bobby Flavel, had a period at Love Street as player, coach and later manager. But real success for Paisley had to await the side of 1959, which was to win the Scottish Cup final when it defeated Aberdeen. It was a well-balanced, blended side. In goal was Dave Walker, secured from Airdrieonians. John Cockles-Wilson, most redoubtable of fullbacks. McGugan and Leishman, who with Jackie Nielsen made up the half-back line. Outside right, Jim Roger, powerful and pacey. Tommy Bryceland, tricky, entertaining, signed from Gourock Juniors. Saints American, Jerry Baker, a prolific goalscorer and an internationalist. And the left-wing partnership of Alistair Miller in the wing, and inside him, the elegant Tommy Gemmell.
Gemmell was a classy player. He was only, Tom was too quiet. If he had have had the same devilment as Tom Bryceland, he'd been a great player. He was a good player, mind you. Tom was a great passer of ball. Bryceland was a cheeky player, good player, cheeky, very cheeky. But I mind one day, now Baxter was with Race Rovers at the time, and we Tom put it through his legs, not once, but it must have been a dozen times during the game, like, you know. Tom was awfully cheeky. Great wee player day, you know. Alistair, it was Alistair's semi-final, like, you know. I reckon Alistair won the semi-final. Alistair scored the first 2 goals, like, you know. Played brilliant. First of all, we met Peebles Rovers in the first round. And I says to the manager, Willie Reid, what's like the bonus tonight, boss, you know. Willie says, well, I'll put you on the 10 bob at that time, 50 pence now, 50 pence a goal, like, you know. So I tell the boys, I say, score as many as you can, the more the better. We're on 10 bob a goal, like, you know. So the boys rattled on 10, so that was a £5 bonus we got on top of your wages. But the wages was only sweeties at that time, like, you know.
Dunfermline and Motherwell bit the dust, and it was Celtic in the semi-final.
In the vast setting of Hampden Park, there seemed every promise of a vintage semi-final. Cutting in, outside left Miller took a pass from Roger and put the ball out of Happy's head. Goal for the Saints. Alistair Miller was on the Saints' warpath again. Trying to narrow the angle, Frank Happy came out to meet him, but the ball rolled in. This wasn't at all what the mighty Celtic had expected. They couldn't cope with the tricky swirl of the wind. Foul here against Celtic. Baker beat Haffey, and it was 3-0 for St Mirren at half-time. Even after the interval, there was no stopping St Mirren. Almost on time, Bryceland scored goal number 4 for the Saints. What a victory for St Mirren!
We always thought we had chances because we could score goals. You know, we could create goals and score against them. Funny enough, we played Celtic on the Monday night before that, previous to that game, at Lapsley, and I think we get beat about 6-2 or something like that. So we played on the Saturday. Obviously, Celtic must have thought this is, you know, just have to go into the park and that's it, you know. But we played well and we deserved to win at the end up. It could have been more, as it turned out.
We were pretty confident, but it was pretty windy, remember that, Tommy? And we
good.
were playing against the wind. In the first half, we thought that might affect, could affect the result against the wind, but it worked in our favour, of course, by the half-time.
And so to the final. And in front of 108,000 people, St Mirren took on Aberdeen.
The Saints are in striped shirts. 100,000 crowded Hampden Park, hoping for a classic exhibition to decide possession of the coveted trophy. Only 2 minutes before the interval, Saints outside left, Alistair Miller centred. Inside right, Tommy Bryceland headed a goal. 20 minutes after the resumption, St Mirren scored again. Outside left, Miller just had to tap it into the net. On the attack again, St Mirren weren't relying on their 2-goal lead. They were bent on increasing it. Lucky escape here for Aberdeen, but not for long. Saint centre-forward Jerry Baker shot goal number 3. Hugh Baird got a consolation goal for Aberdeen almost as the final whistle blew.
When Jack Mowat did blow the final whistle, the roar could have been heard at Paisley Cross. Saints fans swarmed onto the field and carried off David Lapsley shoulder high from his last professional football match. There was the usual presentation of the cup, of course, to the victorious skipper. But on this very special day, there was one more curious ceremony.
This is the moment that every St Mirren supporter in Paisley knows about, the opening of the famous whisky bottle. How do you feel about it, Davy? Excited?
No, not excited, but I'm quite well pleased, and I'm pleased that it's...
Over here, Davy, just let's have a look at it. That's the thing. Out it comes now.
I'm pleased that it's Davy Lapsley. It's going to have the first...
Well,
drink.
Davy Lapsley, the St Mirren skipper, the man who said he's finishing with football at the end of the season, is going to take the first drink of whisky from just a wee tot, says Davy. There you are, just a spot. Very nice.
Well, here's all the best, Dave. All the best, Arthur.
Thank you, Davy.
I'm pleased to drink this little drop, you know, and on the occasion St Mirren win the cup. I hope they win the league next year.
Thank you, Dave.
Winning the cup had been hard enough, but getting out of the team bus at Paisley was infinitely harder. But eventually David Lapsley and Cup made it to the balcony of the municipal buildings.
Who was it that won the cup? Who took Aberdeen down?
Well, I'd like to thank you all for your faithful support. And I think the best team won the Sky Cup.
Fantastic, great night for Paisley. Paisley people love the cup runs, you know, they seem to go for the cup rather than the league. But I think the whole in Paisley had a wee drink that night, I would say.
There was a lot to celebrate. Paisley Pirates were champions of the British Ice Hockey League. It was a very good year. In the harsh winter of the following year, Jerry Baker was hitting the kind of form that made it certain that he would be the magnet for many English clubs. One fixture in particular made it inevitable that he would soon go to England.
You go back, I think, till 1960. I think it was the Paisley Charity Cup or something which they used to play prior to the season starting, and St Mirren played Manchester City. I had not long joined City, so it was nice to go back up to Scotland and play at Love Street. I mean, I wasn't a great St Mirren supporter because coming from Aberdeen, you know, I mean, an Aberdeen supporter. But I do remember them winning the Scottish Cup, which I think was the year before in 1959. So it was nice, and it's lovely to see. It was nice to see a club like St Mirren win the cup. There was Jerry Baker, who of course came to Manchester City, I think the following year. He was small, he was a busy player, he was very sharp, he was a bubbly character, and scored a few goals for Man City, and really had a excellent time down here in England, but smashing player.
2 years later, St Mirren, without the assistance of Jerry Baker, again reached the semi-final of the Scottish Cup, and again their opponents were Celtic.
In Celtic goal, Happy only half cleared. Fernie scored, 1 for St Mirren. In centre for St Mirren, Kerrigan took a perfect pass, beat Happy, and that was the Saints' second goal. Only 1 minute later, outside left, Beck sent a great shot between 2 defenders. Goal number 3. The Saints were 3 up when play began the second half, not the sort of thing Celtic are used to. Fed up with the way the game was going, hundreds of supporters swarmed onto the field. For a few minutes, it looked like South American politics. Thousands had gone home thinking the match was all over. What an error of judgment, for in the last 5 minutes, Burns scored 1 for Celtic.
So it was back to Hampden for St Mirren versus Rangers. The captains tossing up, Jim Clooney for St Mirren, Eric Caldo for Rangers, Tiny Wharton dwarfing them both.
And a narrow escape for Rangers. Goalkeeper Ritchie and Kerrigan collide heavily. Macmillan again finds Williamson in terrific form. And as the ball is centred, inside right, Ralph Brand is up there and manages to bundle it into the net. Rangers leading 1-0 at half-time. Rangers storm in again. Davy Wilson in possession. He shoots, and it's goal number 2 for Rangers. And that was all. The game was over.
The team went into decline despite the jazzy strip. George McLean, second from the right in the front row, made the short journey to Ibrox. His teammate at Love Street, the Icelander Thorolf Beck, would shortly follow. One player who would arrive was the talented inside forward Archie Gemmell, and he would make his own piece of history by being the first ever official substitute in Scottish football, but not even the young Archie could keep Saints in the First Division. They were relegated in 1967, and at that time the great-hearted Cockles Wilson decided that enough was enough. With his going went the last link with the marvellous Cup final side of 1959. Saints didn't linger in the second division. They bounced back at the first time of asking, scoring 100 goals in the process, with Peter Kane getting 22 of them. By no means a one-man band, because Saints had such fine players as Jim Blair, Willie Fulton, Bobby Adamson and Cammy Murray, who was a stalwart at Love Street for 10 years. When Saints regained the First Division, they took it by storm. Managed by Alec Wright, they were the only undefeated side in the country after 10 matches, and they made it 11 when the mighty Rangers came calling at Love Street. In a 1-0 win on a flint-hard pitch, Hugh Gilshan got the goal that mattered. But form slumped, and at the end of the season the best they could do was to finish a modest 11th. With a worsening league position, Wilson Humphreys took over from Alec Wright. He looked to younger players as the club's saviours.
Well, I think it's Wilson Humphreys I've got to thank for any progress that I made in senior football. Alec Wright, we were part-time under Alec Wright, and he was an excitable character, to say the least. But Wilson Humphreys came and gave me a lot of confidence in my own ability. I wanted full-time football, so he said, you can have full-time football, but I was the only full-time footballer at Love Street. So there's just myself and Wilson Humphreys working together on a daily basis, and it was his coaching and his encouragement that I felt, as I said, helped me progress to bigger things. Tommy Bryceland came along then. For me personally, it was a big blow to lose Wilson Humphreys. Obviously, I had great faith in him. And Tommy Bryceland came from, I think it was Norwich City at the time, as player manager. Probably Tommy Bryceland's best days as a player were over, but obviously had a bit of a reputation in Paisley, and I was certainly looking forward to working for him. But circumstances at the time, it looked, there was beginning to be a bit of transfer speculation surrounding myself, and really, I never really got to know Tommy Bryceland that well, but I don't think there was any doubt, speaking to St Mirren fans, it was a smashing player for St Mirren. But I was more or less on my way at the time.
Well, I was at Oldham at the time. I just moved there from Norwich and been there about a year and a half, and St Mirren came on the scene and watched me a few times and asked me back to Love Street. I signed there. Wilson Humphreys was the manager, but the deal was actually conducted by a couple of directors. And then about a week later, Wilson Humphreys resigned or whatever, and Alistair Miller got the job. He was acting manager for about 3 or 4 games, and then I don't know what happened, but Alistair left as well. So I was offered the job as player manager. So I took that on for about a year and a half or so. At the time, St Mirren were a wee bit financial problems, and the team, we had about 3 or 4 really good players, but quite a few not so good. But the bank manager was after some money, you know, so we had to actually sold Gordon McQueen to Leeds. Well, they actually stole him, as it turned out, but I mean, they went there anyway. Sold Ian Munro to Hibs, sold Ali McLeod to Southampton, Jim Blair to Norwich, my old team. So at that time we'd sold about 4 good players because of the financial situation, and then it was a matter of rebuilding. It was going to be a long-term situation, which after about a year discovered wasn't working, so we kind of called it quits, and that was the end of the story, to put it politely.
In 1974, St Mirren slumped to their worst ever position, 11th in the second division, and manager Willie Cunningham decided to call it a day.
Now Willie was part-time manager, and he was part-time manager of a part-time team, and he felt that we had to have a youth policy, but he felt that he wasn't the man that to do the job. So I was quite friendly with Willie, and I asked Willie, okay, you want to leave, that's fine, who will we get to replace you? And he thought for a minute, and he said, well, look, leave it just now, and I'll ring you later on tonight. And Willie phoned me, and the man he recommended to us was Alec Ferguson.
Something drastic needed to be done at St Mirren, and I set about it in my own way, and made decisions which, you know, maybe surprised some people, but it had to be done, you know.
Alec Ferguson saved St Mirren from obscurity. He got them the vital 6th spot, which made sure they would play First Division and not Second Division football after reorganisation. And by 1976, Saints were straining for the First Division Championship with an exciting young side.
Fitzpatrick there with Richardson. Sideways, and a great shot and a great goal. Billy Stark scores a cracker. It comes straight to Reid, and it must be 2, and it is.
We went unbeaten, I think. I can't remember the amount of games, but I think it was something like 20 odd games, and 28 games or whatever, and we're still only maybe a point in front of Clydebank, so it shows you how tight the league was. And I think that the best games that year were against Clydebank.
Hislop versus Gallagher. And that's it. Richardson floating it up. Everybody misses it, but it's there. Hislop almost finding Stark. Barnes clearance returned. Hislop coming in. Stark, McGarvey. McGarvey scores.
In November, Alec Ferguson completed the jigsaw. Convinced that Jackie Copland was the answer, he persuaded the supporters club to put up the money for him.
Well, the first thing I noticed when I came back was after the discipline of Jim McLean's United team, which was excellent. I wouldn't knock it at all. I came down here, and here was this team of young guys, and it was so refreshing. And even the training games, everybody was wanting to show how they could play, and ability was to the fore, and it was wonderful. It was just completely new to me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I started to enjoy training more, and these guys wanted to play football. It wasn't drudgery. It was really something they wanted to do, and they transposed this onto the park, and they played great football, and it was so exciting. And Fergie felt that he wanted to maintain this, but he had to instill discipline at the back and a bit of experience. And this is where I was brought in, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Apart, obviously, of being home, I felt it was like coming home, and coming home into such a good side. It was great, and there was never any doubt that they were going to win the league. You know, and it was just how far they were going to go.
How far they would go in that season's Scottish Cup was doubtful when Premier Division Dundee United took an early lead at Love Street.
Space on the left to find McAdam. McAdam, a nice cross, a chance for Wallace, and a goal! Break it in field to McGarvey. McGarvey floating it forward to Torrance, and it's a goal! Laid back by Wallace. There's a chance for St Mirren. Great save by McAlpin, but it's there second time by Torrance. Now Fitzpatrick. No flag. McGarvey's onside. It's going to be a goal. It's going to be a goal. Start. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And they ended up walloping them 4-1. We really could have been more. But it was a really outstanding performance. But I think what also was important that day, for the first time, I think the Paisley public realised, hey, we've got a team we want to watch here. And there was about 20,000 that game, something, you know. So I think that helped the players about that day.
That year, the cup run was, I remember, more for the next game, which we drew Willie McLean's Motherwell at Third Park. And the hype that had been built up in the town after the Dundee United game was so great that they couldn't get enough buses to take the people to Firth Park. Apparently the great problems, they were phoning around all over the country to try and get buses. Anyway, we went to Firth Park, and I remember on the way there, you know, the club or the team always go early, and we went there, we normally aim to arrive an hour before the kick-off. And we were actually caught up in the traffic going to the game. Now, I'd never known this before. Never ever. I'd seen, even going to cup finals with Dundee United, I'd never ever seen this. It was amazing. We were stuck in this traffic jam. And we had to get the police to take us out and get us to the park in time for the game.
Starks up there, there's Pettigrew, a rock wanting to lay it off, and does. Willie Pettigrew! It's there! The man with his arms raised, Vic Davidson. St Mirren for the way they're coming. There's Hislop. That must be, yes, the equaliser. McGarvey. Just over a minute later, the equaliser. Look at these St Mirren supporters. Good running by Davidson. Again, he's brought down. Penalty kick. "16 minutes of the second half gone. Willie Pettigrew with it. 2-1 for Motherwell.
Promotion was the priority, however, as the club newspaper detected, and the title was to be clinched at Dens Park against Dundee.
Well, we really fancied ourselves by that time winning at Dens anyway, because we'd walled them so much, but to win 4-0 and clinch the title, it's an outstanding performance. I remember particularly Stark's performance that night. Billy Stark from the midfield just tore them apart.
Dundee played us off the park for the first half an hour. And then I remember Billy Stark getting a goal just before half-time, and that happened to get 3 goals in the second half. But by that time, I think Dundee had just fallen apart, and we were on the title road, and we wanted to try and win the game in style. And at the end up, it could have been 5 or 6.
Once we clinched it that night, what a celebrations! Where we stopped, and I remember coming back down in the bus and the excitement and the thing, and great experience again. You know, fantastic.
Yeah, I always remember that game for the journey back in the bus. I think Fergie actually bought us a drink on the way back, which is very handy. But it was great, yeah, it really was. It was a culmination of a lot of things, and it was good. It was a good journey back.
When Saints got to the Premier League, they showed themselves a match for anybody. And when Rangers came to Love Street, the result was a 6-goal thriller.
Smith accelerates, that's Jardine! Jardine scores an absolutely brilliant goal there. Smith. Young, the fullback. Hislop going for it. Doing well to get it round the back. Driven in by Doherty. Hislop coming in. Down he goes. A penalty being given there, a bit surprising. Frank McGarvey taking it. Johnston. Gordon Smith. Cooper. Left foot goal, a brilliant equaliser. Headed by Johnston. 3-2 down. A great try there. McGarvey has scored. McGarvey has equalised again.
Such was the club's standing at the time that Liverpool, European champions, came to Paisley for the centenary match. The match ended in a 1-1 draw. By the end of that season, the revolving managerial door at Love Street had replaced Alec Ferguson with Jim Clooney, but Fergie had made his presence felt.
He was probably the first person that I had met who was so interested in the game that he would do other than his own job, which was to get a team out in the park. And he generated great excitement by his own personality.
As a young man, then, as I said to you earlier, you do things because you feel that it was important to do them. And the most important thing was to be positive about it all. And the players believed, and the support started to believe, and everything was just on fire, you know.
So it was a shock to the player system, yeah. But in saying that, what happens in football, anything in life, you're a professional and you got on with it.
Jim Clooney got on with it. Fitzpatrick and McGarvey left. Thompson, McDougall and Sumner came. And St Mirren could still win at Ibrox.
McDougall again. And it's a goal! Into McDonald. McDonald brought down, referee says a penalty. Thompson against Jardine, and it's 1-1. Intercepted by Fulton. Doherty can get it across, McDougall's in the centre. Back it comes to Bourne. Bourne hooks it in for sides there, it's not cleared. Chance for Weir to go through. Driven in, and it's a goal. Sumner scores. 2 minutes from time. It's 2-1 St Mirren. What a finish.
The following year, Jim Clooney took St Mirren into Europe for the first time. And another piece of silverware was won when St Mirren demolished Bristol City in the final of the Anglo-Scottish Cup.
Where to take it? Look at the curl in it again. Oh, Logan underneath it all. Monroe, the play still open. Here's Weir. The chip of the shot is a chip. There's Sumner. Oh, great goal! Fulton's ball is a good one again. That's Logan. Oh, yes! Good support now. Oh, that's a great goal by Stevens.
Saints fans were entitled to be delighted with a 5-1 aggregate win. Their side had won the Anglo-Scottish Cup and remain the only Scottish club ever to have done so. But not even the best of performances can guarantee a manager's job. This 2-1 win at Parkhead would be Jim Clooney's last match in charge of the Paisley club.
Reid, he got behind it all right, just slightly off balance. Start trying to put it down, that's it! Likes Richardson, 1-0. There's McGarvey. And fight there will certainly be. Appeals for a penalty, and it has been given. McCluskey to take it. That's it. 1 each. Richardson. Beckett. Oh, what a goal by Beckett. Oh, 2-1.
Under new manager Ricky McFarlane, St Mirren continued to delight their fans with goals like this one.
Sumner. Now Bourne on his own. Aberdeen defence trying to get back to close him down. What a goal!
But as Tommy Bryceland rightly said, it was the cup matches that captured the imagination of the Paisley support.
Does that so open, and that's curled in brilliantly by Scanlon. 1-0. Now Scanlon, another good one. McAvenny, 2-0. 24 minutes of the first half gone. Scanlon will take this. It will be an in-swinger. There it is with the left foot. And that is very close to McAlpin. Oh, that's a great score. Fitzpatrick. Simpson. McGee goes wide. Good ball inside. Strachan. McGee in the dry area. Needs to touch it inside. And that must be yes. And it's kept by Thompson. I think we'll credit McGee with that goal. touch by Sumner. McDougall. Stark wasn't getting that at all. Lex Richardson and... Oh, there's a mistake! McAvenny got the equaliser! What a blunder! Here again. Hewitt trying to get the shot in. Simpson will! Bill Simpson. Copland. There's Beckett, all in his own. Hooks it in intelligently, that must be the equaliser. It is. Sumner getting to it. Edging forward. Two minds what to do there. Shrugby, that's a good looking ball. Weir.
Semi-finals were cruel to St Mirren hereabouts. If the Aberdeen match was bad, what about this against Rangers? This has gone down in mythology as the goal that never was. A year later against Celtic, it was again a case of always the bridesmaid, never the bride, as the goalkeeper's nightmare continued.
Swinging it round, this must be a chance, it is! That counts this time, Brian McClare, 1-0. Fitzpatrick had disappeared in midfield, he's been subdued. McAvenny, the good jumping again. Here's a great chance, he scored! The equaliser by Frank McDougall. Rain right down the line, looked like a foul throw to me. McGarvey wants a 1-2. Barnes is there. Ooh, shaded away. Post. And Thompson's in.
With Alec Miller as manager, Saints were again in Europe, and one of their best evenings was a 3-0 demolition of Slavia Prague at Love Street. Having survived a pounding in Czechoslovakia and losing only 1-0, Saints got through at Love Street after extra time. Frank McGarvey had 2 of the goals and Brian Gallagher got the other. Of the 14,000 crowd who turned out, few could remember a more exhilarating performance from their Paisley favourites. The players enjoyed it too. Big things were now expected of Saints, and Brian Gallagher certainly obliged with an away hat-trick in Europe in a 3-3 draw against Hammarby of Sweden. Sadly, in the return leg, 2 goals lost in the last 3 minutes sent Saints out. With manager Alec Miller departing to Hibs, Alex Smith arrived in time for another crack at the Scottish Cup.
McNamara, the player coach, Lex Richardson, a former St Mirren player, and Ian Clinging, the man who came from Motherwell. Alec O'Hara, and he's given it straight to Chalmers. Now have it all to do, the Premier League side facing a very difficult task, and another penalty kick. Yes, and it's Ian Ferguson who's taken the responsibility. And Ferguson makes it at the second attempt. After that, excellent save from David Wiley. It's McDowell looking for Chalmers. Chalmers is through, a great chance now for St Mirren. Can he make it? Yes! Paul Chalmers with the third for St Mirren, and just look at the jubilation of these St Mirren players.
Having disposed of Raith Rovers at Kirkcaldy, St Mirren then met Heart of Midlothian in the semi-final at Hampden.
Natural left foot. There's Ian Ferguson. He's away from Henry Smith. Great chance for St Mirren. Brilliant play from Ferguson. St Mirren are in the lead. There's Cowie. Breaks a great chance now for Mackay. Still Gary Mackay. Yes! The equaliser from Gary Mackay. This is Cameron looking at a cross. There's McGarvey. St Mirren are ahead once again, and it's Frank McGarvey celebrating in customary fashion.
So to the final, and Dundee United at Hampden. 51,000 were there in the stadium, the vast majority St Mirren supporters. Their team: Money, Wilson, Derek Hamilton, Abercrombie, Winnie, Cooper, McGarvey, Ferguson, McDowell, Brian Hamilton and Lambert. And what a great end to the journey for Frank McGarvey and Tony Fitzpatrick, which they'd started more than 10 years before.
There at the far end, huge concourse. These are the buddies, about to start the 102nd Scottish Cup final.
For 90 minutes it was nervous stalemate, with few chances being created at either end. Both keepers got occasional chances to show their mettle, and St Mirren committed both substitutes, Tony Fitzpatrick and Ian Cameron. It wasn't till the second session of extra time that this final exploded into life.
That's a better ball, there's no offside. In red, but there's Gallagher. Ferguson's done it. And he's offside, no. Ferguson is offside. Billy Abercrombie. And it goes to Ferguson. Great run by Ferguson here. Can he put it away out? Ian Ferguson. To that massive delight. The youngster who's had a very quiet and restrained game, getting this one opportunity, striding through and with great calm, scoring the only goal of the game. Here's Cameron. He'll try and put it under, brilliantly saved. Oh, a superb try. There's Kevin Gallagher, and there it goes. St Mirren have won the cup. The captain, Billy Abercrombie. Delighted St Mirren players.
Delighted St Mirren fans too, and the celebrations continued loud and long. But Saints had learned something from 1959. This time the transition from players' bus to balcony was managed rather more sedately. Victory at Hampden meant Europe again in the Cup Winners' Cup. Saints disposed of Tromsø of Norway, but then went out to Mechelen of Belgium. This was disappointing but no disgrace, because Mechelen went on to win the actual competition. League form slumped and Alex Smith left. Tony Fitzpatrick took over, and although Saints remained inconsistent, there were great moments.
Oh, that's a very good goal by Shaw. My, oh my. Oh, he did that very well, stick right there. Storfason, that's a beautiful goal. And the Continentals combined.
The continental influence continued with the signing of Victor, seen here with Steve Archibald, but their influence was insignificant, and in the face of poor results, Tony Fitzpatrick decided to go.
Wasn't it really so much the pressure of the results, sort of getting beaten, things like I could handle that side, and the side of football I could handle. It was the pressure within myself for the supporters. No for them shouting at me. I think it would have been easier if they'd been all standing up shouting Fitzpatrick out or whatever. I could handle that. it was the fact they were wanting me to do so well because I'd been at St Mirren a long time. I remember one game which was up at Aberdeen, it always sticks in my mind. We got beat 5-1, and it's a long walk for the Aberdeen dugout down to the dressing rooms, and these people had travelled 300 miles or so, and I mean, and they're standing at the end of where you go into the tunnel, chanting my name, and we get beat 5-1. I mean, if that had been any other manager, you'd been lynched.
In 1991, Saints were only saved from relegation by the expansion of the Premier League. David Hay was brought in as manager to keep them there. Gordon Smith stayed on as assistant boss, and Scottish World Cup captain Roy Aitken was brought in as player coach. These three men currently hold responsibility for St Mirren's fortunes. But running a football club involves much more than simply putting a team on the field in match days. Alan Marshall and his board of directors must take into consideration such topics as crowd safety, increasingly vital to any club, and the examination of all sources of revenue. Gone are the days when money through the gate was the only money that a club could earn.
Well, the commercial side has developed substantially over the last 15 years. We have, I think, accepted as the most successful football lottery in Britain, and that brings in a regular steady income. We also have sponsors who come to matches and pay for the use of sponsored facilities, and of course Kelvin Holmes are our main sponsors. They've been our sponsors for the last 3 seasons, and they have a facility here which they're happy to come and use, and they pay for the use of that and pay for the display of their name on our team strips and on other football equipment.
The main sponsors are vital to a club like St Mirren Football Club. Apart from the money they inject into the club, their expertise in other fields have helped us in many respects, and Kelvin Holmes, I would say, have done more than just sponsor St Mirren Football Club in a financial sense. They are probably the reason we've built rooms like this, which is the Sponsors Lounge. They have generated business in other ways. They've put us in touch with other people, and they have brought people to St Mirren Football Club, and I can't thank them enough.
Football directors are also football fans, and Alan Marshall's dreams and aspirations are no different from those of any other supporter who goes along to Love Street of a Saturday.
Our immediate aims must be to maintain our position in the Premier League. We've had some taste of Europe. It would be great to get back into Europe, and that must be our next aim. And even better still would be the thought that one day we might be able to win the Premier League. I think it would be a tremendous achievement if we could see the league flag flying at Love Street.
St Mirren's story through the ages has been one of struggle. Successful struggle for the most part, but struggle nevertheless. Every player who wears the black and white carries the hopes and aspirations of the supporters with him. And for those supporters, even in those seasons when not much is going right, there are a few Saturdays when it all comes together, and it's all very much worthwhile.
If they can stay in the Premier League every year, which they've done since the 70s, I think that is success for St Mirren.
I always used to say, being a St Mirren supporter, you're schooled to adversity, and to have lasted 100 years in top-class football was a great tribute, I think, to the people of Paisley who supported them all those years.
Our aim is to improve the situation here, A, on the playing side, and B, in the facilities available to spectators, that we can maybe pull away a few from Parkhead and Ibrox and come back and support the hometown team.
get down to St Mirren and support your club.
Whatever the future holds for St Mirren, one thing can be said for certain. For players and supporters, the Saints will continue to go marching in.